Welcome to Prediction Market Movers. I'm Chris Gerlacher with Prediction News, and we've got Ben Freeman here with us today. He's a great political trader, awesome streamer, and he's going to give us the lowdown on live trading on elections. Like this video for us, follow us on X at Prediction News, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Prediction News. Ben, I want to start with how you came to prediction markets. How'd you end up trading on these platforms?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been interested in politics. I was a political science and econ double major in college.
Nice.
During the COVID shutdowns, I was very interested in the 2020 presidential race, and I just found myself checking the polls every single day, trying to, read all of the news stories that I could. Most of my friends weren't as interested in it. They were interested in sports and other things. So what I decided to do is make my own YouTube channel, where I would basically talk to a camera similar to this and kind of give my election predictions. And I was mainly basing my content then like on the polls and like filling in a map with various shades of blue or red, kind of on like what I thought they would be. And what I found when I was doing that in 2020 is that the polls were not always very accurate. And I thought that the prediction markets, like the betting odds or like whatever you want to call them, tended to be more accurate than the polls. And like in hindsight, when you look at the results of the 2020 race, it was a lot closer than the polls and the traditional election forecasts had it. I think the Economist had Biden at like a 96-97% chance to win, when in reality it was a lot closer.
And there were some polls that, showed Biden with like a 7-point margin of victory in certain states where he came out with a 1 or 2% or even tighter margin of victory in those states.
Yeah, there was one famous ABC Washington Post poll out of Wisconsin that was rated as an A+ pollster at the time. I believe it had Biden winning Wisconsin by 12 or 13 points, and I believe that Biden only won that state by less than 1%. So that was a well outside of the margin of error. Which if you were just looking at the quote unquote high quality polls, your election forecast would have been totally wrong there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Biden won that by 0.63%, so you were dead on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what'd you end up doing after 2020?
Yeah, so I mean, I graduated college in 2022. I'm actually still currently working my job in management consulting. I did some politics stuff in college. I actually interned at the White House one of the summers in college. But one thing I kind of learned, I guess, is like I don't think the partisan nature of politics is for me. Like I don't want to be on the team on team red or team blue, like really with that like fighting. I just kind of like looking at it and like trying to be as unbiased as possible, kind of more from a reporting point of view than really being kind of like one of the on the ground fighters.
Yeah. So were you like an intern as like a political operative in the 2020s, or what were they having you do?
Yeah, so I interned in the Office of Speechwriting. This was the summer of 2019. So in the Trump White House, which was definitely more of a partisan role,
Right.
I would say. But yeah, and I think part of what I discovered that summer is like I didn't think that I wanted to go into like politics as a job, like working on one of the sides trying to tear down the other side. But I politics is still like very interesting to me, and from the election predictions point of view, like that's my biggest passion for
Yeah.
sure.
So you like the clear picture of what's going on in politics.
Yeah, and I think too, just like if you look at the mainstream news outlets, if you look at, different journalists trying to cover this, I feel like that many people aren't very good at it.
Mhm.
Everything is from a biased lens. It's in political coverage, I feel like it's very hard not to inject your own
Mhm.
personal viewpoint from that. And I think the beauty of prediction markets is that you're kind of forced to not be biased in them,
Mhm.
because if you let your bias overcome you, then you're going to lose money. If you're like solely making trades on who you want to win
Mhm.
rather than, really trying to look at it rationally, then you're going to lose your shirt. So
Mhm.
that's one thing that I really like about prediction markets, is I feel like they can kind of be an oracle for truth, and kind of blow past
Mhm.
the narratives and all the falsehoods that
Mhm.
politics brings out, I would say.
Yeah, so you like that it can take a big axe to punditry and some of the empty words and some of the reasoning that doesn't really go anywhere in a lot of political commentary.
Right, right, yeah, and I mean, I think while many of the talking heads that you see on TV can be entertaining,
Mhm.
I actually don't think that many of them are, like, very skilled, at this. Like,
Mhm.
I've made friends with many of the top prediction market traders,
Mhm.
and I think one thing that drew me to prediction markets is, I mean, these people are so sharp. I mean,
Mhm.
I am not the sharpest, but like I really enjoy talking to them because
Mhm.
these people just think about the world so differently. I mean, these are the biggest election experts that no one knows of. I mean, like just on this live stream that I had on last night, I would
Mhm.
challenge anyone from like CNN or Fox or the New York Times to be able to understand like where the late ballots are like coming from, like just the process of the elections. Because I really don't think no one like I don't think anyone really knows how they work, but this guy has studied it so deeply, uh be because he's trading on it.
Mhm.
And when you're trading on things, the incentive is to have the most knowledge and have the most information. And so I think that's why you see some of the top traders being more knowledgeable, or have better takes than the journalists who are not necessarily incentivized to always be the smartest or have the best takes.
Yeah. Do you think some of these traders could become some of the next generation of political commentators as prediction markets become more mainstream, especially in politics?
Yeah, I I think so, but I also think that many of them probably don't want to be. I mean, frankly, they're
Mhm.
making more money trading than they ever could being like a salary
Mhm.
journalist. But I do think that there's a big future in kind of through the cutting through the, noise, cutting through the narrative, cutting through the, bias, like with the mainstream news media, and having it be more decentralized. And
Mhm.
I think what you're doing with prediction news, I mean, I think it's definitely gonna be a growing platform, and there's dozens of people that you've never heard of that I think we're gonna start hearing more of
Mhm.
in the, future.
Yeah, well, let's get into some of your trading background. So, I mean, when Kalshi won its election contract lawsuit in 2024 and started launching political contracts, I mean, you must have been just stoked.
Yeah, I was very happy. I mean, during the 2020 race, I was trading on Predicted, and then I was, trading with some other people too, like some people were like your like college bookies, but
Yeah.
there there weren't that many markets, and it kind of was hard getting money down. Like, are you gonna
Mhm.
trust your friend's friend from a different college, or are you going to trust this offshore book? Um,
Right.
so yeah, I was really happy. I think it was in late September, early
Mhm.
October of 2024
Yep.
when Kalshi got their election markets legalized. And I I don't have a background
Mm.
in crypto, so I was never really interested in poly market, and I was always a bit sketched out, like
Yeah.
needing to use a VPN, or like I don't I don't know.
You
So
like the
yeah,
regulated you like the regulated
yes,
option.
yeah, and so yeah, I was very happy about that, and it was like easy bringing money onto that platform. Like their customer service was like very good. Um, and it was so interesting, that was a very interesting time because they were onboarding markets for the first time. And
Mhm.
so in some of these markets, and in some of the more derivative markets, like what are the number of Senate seats, or
Mhm.
what's the margin going to be in this state? Some of
Mhm.
those markets, I actually think I was the first person trading them. So if I was able to see some mispriced markets
Mhm.
that someone was market making, I think it was probably like Kalshi trading.
Mhm.
I was able to be like one of the first people to like kind of see that, and then to also trade kind of based on that. So like that was like really cool, being able to like move
Mhm.
the price. Now, the volume is super high, so you would
Mhm.
need a really big bankroll to move the price.
Now you'll hit position limits before you know it at this point. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but let me ask you about live trading. I know you've done some of these live trading streams, and you've done them with PMT as well. What do you love about trading live?
Yeah, I mean, even before prediction markets were a thing, I mean, with my interest in politics and elections,
Mhm.
election day and election night were always some of my favorite nights of
Mhm.
the year. There's all this lead up with the polls, and there's a lot of news, and there's these n- narratives, and there's like always some like last minute scrambling, I'm like someone who like really likes to watch the campaign speeches. So like there's all this build up to this final moment when you actually see, you actually crack open that ballot box and like see how people are actually voting. And like I just think that is such a beautiful thing. And that's also like you will see movement in the markets up and down based on news stories, based
Mhm.
on polls, but all those markets are going to be resolved one way or the other that night. And
Mhm.
um I will also say that I actually don't think that I'm a live election night trading expert.
Mhm.
uh it has gotten a lot harder. I wasn't on prediction markets back in 2016, but
Mhm.
I think they were pretty small, where if you were following the New York Times needle, then like many traders just traded based on that, and like did pretty well,
Mhm.
because they were able to see that Trump was winning before the market did, or before
Mhm.
the mainstream news did. Now it's a lot more challenging, I think. And I mean, frankly, when I was doing the stream with Prediction Market Trader, I mean, I wasn't op- optimizing for making the most profit. I mean, we were drinking beers, we were kind of having fun, probably trying to optimize for more for from a content point of view, and also just for like a having fun
Mhm.
point of view. But we were actually able to find a live trade that I think was actually like fairly obvious. It was in the Virginia attorney general's race.
Mm-hmm.
And this market was priced Jay Jones, the Democrat, who like had a pretty big texting scandal, and we don't
Yeah.
have to get into the details there, but before election day, he was trading at around 35 cents.
Right. And this is when all the other Democrats are, 60, 70, 80% chances to win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like he was at a 35% chance, and Spanberger was always at like, she was the Democratic nominee for governor. She was at like a 92, 93% chance to win. But like polls did have Jay Jones slightly down. When there were reports of higher voter turnout from the Democrats on election day, before the polls closed at 7 p.m. Eastern, Jay Jones was at like 65%. And he stayed there for longer than I think that he should. With 18% of the vote in, there was not as much split ticket voting that needed to happen for Spanberger to win, but then for Jay Jones to lose, because Spanberger ended up winning by around 14 or 15 points. There needed to be a gap there, and you could see that with 18% of the vote. And so like I saw that when I was live on stream, and it was still priced at like 65, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I was telling PMT, I'm like, we should buy Jones like live right now. What was so funny, this was probably just part of the coincidence of like timing, but like right as I said that, the price just started jumping up.
Everyone else noticed too.
Yeah. So like I think around like 45 seconds after I said that, it went from 65 to 90. So like calling that out live and like seeing that price move up so quickly was just so fun. Like that was just incredible.
Man, take us inside that moment. You're looking at you just call the price after you see it, and you're seeing the price hit 90. I mean, are you just feeling like an election guru in that moment?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was really cool. And like, I was honestly kind of shocked, because I'm like, there's probably hundreds of other people looking at the same data that like I'm looking at, and they're probably more locked in. They don't have all these monitors open. They aren't drinking beers. So I don't think I'm going to be able to find that every election night, but yeah, that was like really fun. And I thought it was so awesome then when,
How'd the rest of election night go for you?
Yeah. I mean, it went pretty well. There was one live trade that I did on the Mickey Sherrill margin, which I got wrong. And I think part of that was actually because the Decision Desk HQ website was like kind of lagged, and I was kind of basing my like trade based on their forecasted outcomes. So that was a great learning lesson. But yeah, overall, and there's actually still a couple margin markets that are still on the offense, but I think I'm ultimately going to be around 20 to 30,000 in profit.
Nice. That is a great night.
Yeah. And like, what's funny is like 2024 election night was like pretty good too, but I think that boosted my ego so much that I was playing other markets that I had no business trading in, like for instance the weather markets or some of the culture markets, just because I just thought that I like couldn't lose. But that was a good learning moment too, to like realize I should probably stick to the markets where I think I have edge in, and not try to do every single market.
Yeah, I lost $50 on Harris winning in 2024, but I overread the midterms. I based it too much on the 2022 outrage and not enough on the 2024 realities of it. The other thing too was when Dobbs got overturned in 2022, a bunch of states in the years afterwards put abortion on the state ballot. And so you had a lot of conservative states or red states that voted to protect abortion rights in their state constitution or by law. And that probably made a lot of other conservatives say, hey, I've got my abortion protections in my state. I feel more comfortable voting for a pro-life president because I think my state will be fine on this issue. I think that ended up removing one of the big moving issues of 2022 off the table for 2024.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one thing that I thought was pretty interesting too is like some of the prediction market whales, or like most of the prediction market sharps, I would say, were actually on Harris. So even though they're long term very profitable, that was one night where actually, some of the people that have millions in profit actually lost. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I actually, it's very interesting that you bring up 2024. I did not have any money on the Trump versus Harris horse race. I thought fair value for Trump was in the 60 to 65 range, which it ended up being. So I made most of my money on the states and the Senate races. But that was a very interesting race.
Yeah. What are the ones you're watching going forward as we get into the midterms and as we look ahead to the next presidential race?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the 2026 midterms will be pretty big. I think that from a volume perspective, I could actually see them surpassing the 2024 presidential markets or like all the election markets there. I think there's going to be some very competitive Senate races. I think the main Senate race will be very interesting on for the Democratic primary, and also on the general election level. I think the Texas Senate primaries on both the Republican and Democratic side are going to be pretty interesting. I think we're actually probably going to see two Senate election days, one for the first round and then the second for the runoff. So I think those will be in March and May. And then, there's many other Senate races that I'm going to be looking at, whether it's North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, Iowa. And then in the past, traditionally, I haven't looked at the individual House races just because there are so many of them. But in reality, and I think this will actually be more of the case in 2026, because states are gerrymandering their states even more. I think there's going to be fewer competitive House races, so it will be less of a research burden, looking at what 15 or 20 different House races are going to how they're going to be, which will ultimately determine who controls the House, which I think is going to be a fairly competitive market. I think it's at 70-30 right now.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to watch. Why are you watching the Senate races so closely in particular?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first started kind of doing the election predictions, I was solely focused on the presidential level. And you really only had to look at a handful of states, like those 7 or 8 swing states. I just think it's a bit easier to look at this handful of Senate races rather than trying to kind of do a deep dive on a very kind of localized House race. I would also just say the impacts of the Senate tend to be bigger too. I mean, we've had very competitive Senate races. I mean, in 2020, everyone thought the Republicans were going to hold. There was those 2 Georgia runoffs, which tied it at 50-50. Yeah. Everyone thought that the Republicans were going to retake the Senate in 2022. that didn't happen. So, yeah, I just think it's a bit more interesting. I mean, senators tend to be more high profile. I mean, I could probably name 80 out of the 100 senators, and I could definitely not do that at the House level. So I just feel like I have more of an edge without doing a ton of deep research on the Senate. And if I wanted to do a deep dive into the House, I would definitely need to like do more research and, honestly, like maybe even travel to some of these districts, interview people, try to find an edge there, because there's simply just, less information online about some of these House races. Like some of these House districts don't even get polled.
Yeah. And do you think that Trump will try and play kingmaker again in 2026 and try and select candidates like he did during the 2022 midterms? Because that made a really big difference in the candidates he chose for the Senate and how they performed in 2022 and how his races went.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's already done some of that. I mean, I'm trying to think of right now, the only state that I can really think of where Trump hasn't endorsed someone and there's a competitive Republican primary is Texas. And Texas is just going to be a super interesting primary. I mean, that's one that, I'm tracking like almost every day, trying to look at every poll. It doesn't look like that he's going to endorse in the short term in Texas recently, but in about every other state, if we look at North Carolina, if we look at Ohio, Florida, Iowa, it wasn't necessarily Trump the one playing kingmaker, but it was Trump in coordination with the RNC and kind of the establishment,
the strategic layer of the party.
Right. And because I think the Republicans saw 2022 as being such a failure with some of the candidate quality, whether it's Herschel Walker in Georgia, Kerry Lake in Arizona. So they wanted to get ahead of that in 2026. And I think for the most part they have, with the exception of Texas.
Yeah. What are you loving about the Texas infighting? I grew up there, so I'm watching them a little bit, but what are you liking?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big state. I actually lived in Texas for two years in Houston.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most important states. It's the second biggest state by population in the U.S. And it's really interesting because you have a 4-term incumbent senator in John Cornyn, who just narrowly lost the race for the Senate majority leader. And, people would think he's a shoo-in. I mean, he's been in the Senate for forever. He's like kind of part of the out leadership, but he is getting primary by Ken Paxton, who is the current attorney general. And he is just super scandal ridden. I mean, this is like, I personally really don't like him. So that's why I kind of have to keep my bias in check, because I will disclose that I am a John Cornyn yes holder and a Ken Paxton no holder. And right now it's very competitive. There was also recently a third entrant into this race, Wesley Hunt, who is a current sitting congressman, and all of them are close to Trump in their own way, which I find very interesting, because if any of these candidates got the Trump endorsement, I think they would win on the spot. But I don't think any of them are going to get it right now. And the polling is just like super, super close. They have very different personalities. They're campaigning very different. It's going to be a very dirty primary. I mean, tens of millions of dollars have been spent. I think when we get to the end of it, it's going to be over $100 million. And the Democratic primary is also very interesting too. It's just so fascinating and interesting to me. So that I think it's definitely one to cover in the next few months.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching Texas just to try and tease out which direction Republicans and Democrats are going to go after they both have to move on from 2024. I mean, Trump should be on his way out in 2028, and obviously Harris is not the front runner to be the nominee again. So it's really fascinating to watch both parties just kind of soul search like this. And Texas is a great battleground to watch for that early on.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting if Jasmine Crockett gets in the race on the Democratic side. I think she's leading in the polls, in the hypothetical polls, but it's still a question if she's going to enter in that primary, because right now it's just a head-to-head between Colin Allred and his name's escaping me right now.
Is that Beto O'Rourke's race or no?
So Beto O'Rourke, I don't think it's actually there's speculation that he was going to join the race. I don't think he's going to join it. His name's like James Talrico, I think, or something like that. He kind of came out of nowhere.
Talrico, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, Talrico.
He's a talented young Democrat.
He is a talent. Yeah, he's a talented guy. He went on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan like really liked him. He's a great speaker. Has a lot of kind of that grassroots energy behind him.
Yeah, the Dems need some candidates who can catch up to that new media landscape and really. I mean, Mamdani was real good about this too. He was a TikTok star leading up to the mayoral elections. And you've still got isn't the Mamdani margin of victory bet still waiting to come in?
Yeah. So it's interesting because the election night was over a week ago, but that's a market that's still at around 55-45 right now. And I had what I thought was like a pretty good thesis that it's currently sitting at an 8.8 margin, and I'm estimating that the last 7% of the votes are going to be more Mamdani friendly than what they have been. So I do think he's going to get above that 9% mark. However, we had this really sharp guy come on our live stream last night. He's made over 1.4 million in profit just on Kalshi. And he was saying that fair value for 9% plus was around 55 to 60. So like basically where the market is right now. I was thinking at first that maybe I had an edge there, and I thought fair value was maybe around like 75. But hearing him talking, like he was segmenting all the weight vote out by the election day vote that wasn't counted, the mail-in votes, and the absentee vote. Like he just clearly had a better understanding than I did, and like how he was thinking about it was more detailed and more research. So I trusted his fair value more than mine.
Yeah, he was a really interesting watch on that stream. It was really fun to watch people actually talk about why they held their different positions instead of just watching people on X yell skin in the game at each other.
Yeah, and like this was the first kind of like counterparty prediction market live debate that I mean I've ever seen. I think it's like from a content perspective, I thought it was really compelling, and like I really hope that we see kind of more of that content, because I think it's really interesting to watch.
Well, you're giving us ideas for 2026, so we'll keep an eye on it. Let me ask you about the prediction market industry as a whole. And I mean, obviously the big breakout was elections in 2024, but I mean, the amount of growth they've had in 25 alone is staggering. I mean, what do you think of the state of the industry right now?
Yeah, I mean, people on X always say, "Oh, they're like very bullish. It's the super cycle," and I think some of that's kind of corny. Some of it I actually do too, but I actually would say I'm a bullish. I mean, I think there's some things from a regulatory perspective that the leaders have to be careful on.
Mm,
But I mean, really kind of seeing how Kalshi's doing it. I think they are doing it the right way.
mm,
And if the CFTC can, kind of keep on kind of taking more of a laissez-faire view, I think, these definitely could keep on growing.
mm,
I think sports is, definitely going to be a like question, because that's one that you've seen a lot of
mhm.
pushback from the sports books. I'm frankly not a sports trader, so like I wouldn't care that much whether
Right.
or not there are sports markets. But I mean, yeah, I think that I kind of take more of the fair view that
Mhm,
having more markets is better. And yeah, and I was saying before, I think the 2026 midterms are going to see more volume than the 2024 race, and I think the
mhm,
2028 race is just going to see insane amounts of volume, which I think will be just so fun to watch.
mhm. Are there any pitfalls or trapdoors you're worried about with the industry that they're going to have to navigate in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a risk as these markets become bigger that you have some bad faith actors, whether it's insider trading, um, or market manipulate. Like, I mean, there's things that can definitely go wrong. I think, and I mean, people have brought this up, like that the whole Coinbase earnings call with the
Mhm,
mention markets. I mean, that was something that I think. I mean, some people thought it was funny, and like I think that was probably a one off. But yeah, I think some things like that where it's
mhm,
like quasi insider trading is a bit worrying. I do think with the political and sports markets and the election markets that there are enough guardrails in place where you won't see that funny business happen. I mean, we recently just saw with the FBI them cracking down some on some um, kind of insider gambling problems. So I think those are the things to watch out for. The other thing that I will say is Kalshi had to fight very, very hard to get these election markets in the first place.
mhm,
They actually had to sue their own regulator. That they had to sue the CFTC,
mhm,
um, which is a very risky thing to do. They ended up winning. However, like I think one of the biggest opponents of the legalization of election markets on prediction markets was Elizabeth Warren, and I think had Kamala Harris won, and if she would have appointed her CFTC chair, I actually don't know what the regulatory landscape would be for prediction markets. I mean, I saw Kalshi and Polymarket both have Donald Trump Jr. on their boards. I think Truth Social
mhm,
might have their own
mhm.
prediction market. I think that's definitely helping.
Controversy.
Yeah, I think that's definitely helping the regulatory landscape.
Mhm,
Um, so yeah, I think that's one risk, I guess, if Gavin Newsom ends up winning. I don't know what his point of view on prediction markets is, but
mhm.
could he be more hostile to them? Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, politically, there is a split. It's not as cleanly red blue as it looks this year with the Trumps getting so involved with prediction markets. But I mean, Richie Torres, he's a progressive out of New York and he's a House member. And he had lots of nice things to say about prediction markets over polls in the weeks following the 2024 election as well. So there's a split within the Democratic Party as well about prediction markets. So I think you're going to see a difference as we get to primary season and approach there, and two different philosophies between candidates who are appreciative of some of the hedging and forecasting utility of prediction markets, even if they come at widespread access to speculation and gambling behaviors, and some who only see the speculation, only see the gambling, and just want a bunch of it to go away.
Yeah, and that's a great point on that. Like there isn't a clean split, because I think we saw with the New York City mayor's race that I mean it like wasn't like super clean, but it did appear like on the surface that Mom Donnie was almost kind of pro prediction market. I mean, he referenced Kalshi in one of his campaign speeches, and it also seemed like that like Bill Ackman, who is more kind of on the Republican side of things, was speaking out against prediction markets in kind of a stupid way. I thought so. Yeah, you were totally right that like this isn't just one of those red blue partisan issues, which I think is good, because you're going to have Democrats in power, and you're going to have Republicans in power, and I hope that whoever's in power, we can still have legal prediction markets.
Are there any problems that you want to see solved within, prediction market products as a trader? Are there any gaps that you're hoping somebody will fill during these kind of innovative boom years?
Yeah, I mean, there's like obviously like bugs that happen as these products are like still pretty new. I think they've done a pretty good job of innovating. I think what the next stage is going to be is people building tools to help, I guess, find markets that might be mispriced, or linking the markets on the like Kalshi website, for instance, to like news stories that are happening that would move the markets. And then I also think just from the content point of view, I think there's so much white space, and I really hope that the prediction market odds get more integrated kind of into mainstream life. I mean, I was really happy to see that like CNN is integrating kind of the odds of the Republicans or Democrats taking the House into their news coverage. I think if we have news coverage based more on prediction markets than polls or talking heads, that I think that's just better for everyone.
Yeah, well, I'm all for keeping the talking heads honest. I mean, we had Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert just blaring in my house in the living room, day in and day out growing up. And so, yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for anyone who wants to go after the talking heads on CNN.
Yeah. And I mean, some of them I actually like, but what just makes me so angry is like when I hear something that I just feel like is so wrong, and there's no consequence, or there's no punishment for just spewing nonsense. And I like really hope that prediction markets can like be like someone called it like a tax on BS, like holding these politicians and powerful people accountable. I think is kind of the ultimate goal.
Well, Ben, we've covered a ton of ground today. Where can people follow you and find your content and watch your streams?
Yeah, so I've been trying to kind of grow more on LNX. I just joined the Kalshi ecosystem, so my handle is at Ben W Freeman 1. And then on YouTube, and it's the same YouTube channel that I had in 2020, so you can look back at my videos from the 2020 race. I was only one electoral vote off, so I did pretty well in 2020. But
so you got cred.
That's Ben's election prediction. So those are the two places that I'm at right now.
Awesome. Well, give this video a like, subscribe to us at Prediction News, and follow us on X at Prediction News. Ben, thanks again so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Chris. This has been great.